idea. I live just north of Los Angeles, California. So I spent almost 28 years in the copier channel. I sold copiers my whole life. It's the only sales channel that I sold into. So I had every sales position imaginable. I bought into the company. I was a business partner. I had a really dysfunctional relationship with my business partners, which ended in me selling. And I'll kind of touch on that because I firmly believe that the key to success, especially as we pull out of what we're going through, is how well you build, nurture, and grow relationships. And without relationships, you have no customers or clients, however you refer to them as. And that's what I took to heart, spending my whole time in the copier channel. And I got bumps and bruises along the way, just like I'm sure whatever careers you guys are in right now, you're going to get bumps and bruises along the way. You're going to get aha moments. The highs are going to be high and the lows are going to be low. And I get it. I've been there. We've all been there. But something happened along the way. And this is I didn't know selling from the heart was coming to life then as it is now. But I remember, gosh, it's probably about 25 years ago. I was in an appointment with a chief financial officer. So I want us to think about this just for a moment as you listen to the story. Is because we've all been in those circumstances where you walk in and you're having a meeting with somebody. Well, now you can't walk in because they're done virtually, but you get the picture. Is if things are going right, or in the first couple minutes if things are going to go sideways. We've all been there. So I think we all can agree, we all have dream customers. We all have those dream accounts, those dream companies we'd like to do business with. Well, that was me 25 years ago. I had to wear a suit every day. I was the number one salesperson on my team. It took me 3 years to get into this account, 3 long years. And then finally that day happens and I get that meeting and I meet and greet with the chief financial officer. And within the first 5 minutes of the meeting, he abruptly stops me dead in my tracks. Stop. Hey, Larry, time out, right? Game over. And in the course of like 10 seconds, the wheels are turning. I go, I don't think I pissed this guy off. Hey, just so you guys know, I speak my mind, but I promise I won't say any nasty words, but I do speak my mind.
It's okay.
And all of a sudden the wheels start going, okay, well, what I do, I know, I don't think I said anything wrong. So right then and there, I kind of repositioned myself in the seat and I said, hey, I inserted his name. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I said something wrong. I don't think I did. I mean, we've only been going a couple minutes. And he goes, actually, you said a lot of things wrong. And as it turned out, he goes, you're the third copier rep who's been in my office in the last week. Y'all walk, talk, and act the same way. You've asked the same, you've almost opened your conversations the exact same way. I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked you to stop. So for those of us who are in sales or any position that you're all in, I want you to think about what makes you different. What conversation, how are you starting your conversations and where are they going? And so keep in mind, so full disclosure, I'm 55 years old. So this kind of went in my early 30s when this happened. So I flipped a page over really quick and I just started to think, what can I do to save this meeting? I know I'm probably going to lose the sale, but what can I do to learn something from this? And I want us to take something away from this story is regardless if you win a deal or you lose a deal, what'd you learn from it? What's 1 or 2 things that you could take away from that could help you become better? So right then and there, I kind of mentally checked out going, okay, I've been exposed, game over. And all I did was ask one question. If you were me, what would you have done differently? And back then I was comfortable enough in my own skin. And I want us to think about that. I'm a big Brene Brown fan. If you know who Brene Brown is. And she wrote her first book was The Gifts of Imperfection. I'm reading Daring Greatly right now. I basically watch anything that she puts out there. And I aspire to be her one of these days, just the male version. But why I say this is because I asked that simple question. I put myself in the moment. I said, what would you do if you were me? And for 45 minutes, I never said a word. This chief financial officer gave me the best life lesson that I ever got as an early 30-year-old. He said, you made it all about yourself and your company and your product. And I got tired of hearing it. So I want us to think about, how are you opening conversations? He goes, you didn't share with me how much you knew about me. You didn't share what you knew about the company. You didn't share about industry trends. You made it all about yourself. And I couldn't take it anymore. So why am I saying this? Mm-hmm. It's not about you. It's not about your company. It's not about your products. It's about them and their outcomes. How can you help them achieve their initiatives, their goals? How can you help them do better business? And from there, I went on a mission and I went on a journey, and I asked all my customers, what would you like to see differently about me? And I packaged it all up, and I found out things like this. I need to show people how much I care about them. I need to show people how much I respect them. I need to show people how much I appreciate them. It was the little things. I was looking over the little things because I was so worried about sharing my company knowledge and my product knowledge and the canned scripted questions that I was trained on. And those are important, and I'm not discrediting it. But the more that I put, whether that be my customers or my prospects, up on a pedestal, the more that they started to share and care. And after, gosh, I took that to heart till 2015. And then here's where the selling from the heart really comes to be. And I'm going to open up on this one because I feel that you guys need to, especially with relationships. I was fired from a job at 50. First time ever I was fired. I was riffed, if you understand what riffed means. I was riffed from a high-paying corporate job in downtown LA. I was the #2 salesperson on a corporate major account team for Konica Minolta here in downtown LA. And they walked us in one by one, and the chopping block happened. Boom, 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 and boom. And all of a sudden, it was the spring, and I'm 50 years old. First time ever, I cried like a baby because I got fired from a job, and I had to come home and tell my wife. And I had to drive 80 miles home to tell my wife.
Oh my goodness.
And I got home, told her, and we both cried. I cried for 2 or 3 days until she said, pick your ass up off the ground and start figuring it out. And I did. And I said, I'll just go back and be a VP of sales in the copier channel. It's easy. I know it. And she goes, yeah, you can go do that, but you'd be bored in 6 months. Why don't you go do something else? And I go, maybe I'm going through a midlife crisis. Maybe I was forced into a midlife crisis. And about 2 weeks later, the light goes off, and I said, you know what? I'm going to bring back to the sales world what was taught to me 25, 26 years ago. And I'm going to bring this back through a male's perspective's eyes. And I'm not saying this because I'm probably more female than male. I grew up with all sisters. Most of my cousins were females. My dad traveled all over the place, and I was raised by my mom. And I don't mind crying, and I'm a huggy, kissy kind of guy. And I said, I'm going to push the button in the sales world on why being genuine, real, authentic, caring, and loving will actually advance your career. And there's nothing wrong with it. Because all too often in sales, and I see this as I travel all over the world, there's so many salespeople out there that try outsmarting their clients. They try outsmarting their prospects. They try showing, hey, I know more than you. I really don't give a crap. Because it's all about them. And that's what I decided to do. It was January 1st, 2016. I decided to bring this to the forefront. And I started a podcast, and I started to talk about it, and I started to write about it. And in April of 2017, Selling from the Heart podcast was born. September of 2018, the book came out, and the book has just launched all over the place. And I'm just grateful for it. But it's all based on one premise. It's caring. I came out of a highly commoditized, backwards, broken dream sales channel where there was no difference through a customer's eyes between one copier and another. And I want us to think about all the things that you sell or that you market. There might not be that much difference between you and somebody else. through their eyes. But the faster you get to somebody's heart, the faster they will tell you things. So then that being said, and if you guys want to put some things in the chat, go ahead, is the first question that we always ask, and Jennifer knows this because she listens to the podcast.
Yes.
We always ask every guest who comes on the podcast, what does it mean to sell from the heart? And I want us to think about that. If you want to put some things in the chat, feel free to do so. But I want us to think about it, especially with what we're going through right now. Because I think this question takes on a whole new meaning now than it did 3 months ago. So that being said, what's it mean to sell from the heart? And then I'm going to layer something into this, and I want us to think about it. What does it mean to lead with the heart and serve with the heart? So Paulie says being authentic. I think that's the first part of it. But here's something that's really interesting is I think authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. And there's so many people going around saying, well, yeah, we have to be authentic. And I'm not here to say who's authentic and who's not, because I'm a firm believer in this. Everybody is authentic. It's a choice. You either want to be authentic or you're not, right? But maybe, you know, maybe this time that we've all gone through, maybe this was the slap in the face and the kick in the rear that a lot of people needed to realize that the more authentic, the more genuine, the more real you are, actually things start to open up. But you got to get comfortable with yourself. And, you know, I've learned along the way, and I came to grips with a lot of the baggage I have in my closet, and I came to grips with it. And that's why I have no problem opening up. None whatsoever. I'm an open freaking book. All you got to do is ask. But I create the boundaries around it. But if you want to know anything, all you got to do is ask. And that was how I connected with people. Because I'm a big believer in this. I'm a big Steve Harvey fan, if you know who Steve Harvey is. Family Feud, dude. I just love that guy. I think he's one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. But he's also very religious. And he goes on and he talks about, in one of his videos, I caught it, gosh, late last year. He talks about at birth, everyone's been given a gift. I don't know if you've seen any of his videos on YouTube. If you haven't, go check him out. Just go to Steve Harvey's page on YouTube. Just amazing, man. Amazing backstory. But the guy didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth, right? He worked his butt off for everything he got. I mean, he was, if you know any of his story, he had like $35 in his pocket and he was somewhere in Florida, and that's how he was found. He checked an answering machine one day and he got an invite to the Apollo in New York City. And that's how he was found. It was the night at the Apollo. You've probably seen it. All the comics that are out there today were there. All the comics got booed off the stage except for Steve Harvey. And then he goes on and he talks about at birth, everyone's been given a gift. And that gift is something that comes easy and natural to you. Something you don't think about, right? You don't mind screw it. It just comes easy and natural. Well, Steve Harvey's gift was he had the gift of being funny. I think he's funny and he thinks he's funny. Because he goes, you don't go to school to be funny. It took me until late last year to uncover what my gift was. And my gift this whole time was selling from the heart, because bringing my heart to the forefront, I don't think about it. It's just who I am. Caring, loving, showing how much I appreciate people. Building deep, meaningful, credible relationships comes easy and natural to me. And I'm at, you know, I think in this time when we start thinking about what's it mean to sell from the heart is really uncovering what your gift is. And I'm a big believer in this. Everyone has a secret sauce. Everybody on this call has a secret sauce. Uncover that with your gift and then sprinkle it on your conversations in your relationships and watch what starts to happen. And the easiest way to explain it is you guys have heard of Frank's Red Hot, right? Frank's Red Hot sauce. And you know the slogan with Frank's Red Hot sauce, right? I put that on everything. It's the S word that ends in a T and has an H and an I in the middle of it. So why am I saying this is if you will think about what your secret sauce is, which means you're going to have to uncover it, and it may not come easy to you. That's why I wrote the book the way I did. The first 3 chapters is all about uncovering who you are. And the reason why I wrote it that way is I spent decades on dysfunctional sales teams with dysfunctional managers. And I had more dysfunctional managers and fake managers than I care to shake a stick at. And when I went for training and what they called coaching, it was always around product and company and all that. There's not one person that was ever in a management or leadership position that ever helped me become the best version of myself. And I just made it a mission when I decided to, do what I'm doing, and I was kind of forced into it, that I was going to rip the kimono off the sales world and really expose what I feel is the missing link. And the missing link is sincerity, substance, and heart. If you can bring true sincerity to what you do, if you can bring true sincerity to conversations and you mean it and you're not full of BS, because people can smell it in 2 seconds, especially with what we're going through right now, is, I always say that we're living in a post-trust world. Well, guess what? Whenever the light turns green, we are now living in a post-virus world. And conversations are going to have to change. Relationships have changed. The way you go about doing business has changed. But yet, the hardest thing for adults to do is what? Change.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and it's going to hurt. But we've had so much change. Just think about everything that's personally happened to you in the last, 60 days, 80 days? So I'll tell you, I was in, I'm trying to think of dates. The first week of March, like the first full week of March, was the last time I've flown. Actually, I can't wait because I just booked my first travel that I'm leaving on June 9th, and I can't wait to hop in an airplane. And so I'm in Orlando speaking at an event, and I knew the coronavirus we didn't know the extent of it, but it was right smack in the middle. I'm at the Disney World Resort, and I catch wind that Disneyland's closing. And I go, holy crap, it's just a matter of time before they close this place. And I got to Friday, spoke at my event, and the next day I'm out of there, and they close Disney World about 2 hours after I leave. And I'm on the airplane, and I told myself things are going to change. I know they're going to change. My gut tells me something's going to happen. And I said, I'm going to double down on selling from the heart, and I'm going to double down on the message, and I'm not going to watch the news. And I'm going to deliver the message even stronger. And I have yet to watch TV. I've laid off the news. It just, to me, the biggest virus that's out there is fear. It's more that than the virus itself. And that's about the extent I'll talk about the virus, because I choose to keep my mouth shut on the virus. But I'm saying this because we've had so much change happen to us in the last 60 to 80 days. Our whole marketplace has changed, right? Relationships have changed. Conversations have changed. And I think we're only fooling ourselves and I'm just throwing the date out there because I don't know what the date is. So let's just say the green light happens June 1st. We can't go back to saying, okay, well, I'm going to pick up on my conversations March the 6th. They're not. Those are done. We got to change the conversations, and we have to change the message that you all deliver. And that's why I'm a big believer that sincerity, substance, and heart will set you guys apart. But it has to be true sincerity, and it has to be true substance, and it has to be true version of your heart. And what's really interesting is we had a gentleman come on our podcast about a year ago and drop the bombshell on us. And because we ask every guest, what's it mean to sell from the heart? And this person went on to say this. He goes, it's hard to sell from the heart if your heart is broken. And then there's dead silence. And I'm like, going, holy crap, what did this guy just say, right? I go, peel that thing back. And he goes, if your heart's not healthy, it's hard to sell with the heart. Now let's think about that for a moment. That means that you guys have to work on your heart. And I remember, Jennifer, when I was at the Relationship Marketing Grand Summit, I talked about it just a smidgen on stage, is we do so much other things in our life, but work on ourselves. We make sure that our house is maintained. We make sure our cars are maintained. We make sure that we go to the dentist and maybe routine doctor checkups. But when I say we fail to work on ourselves, is how many of us reflect on a daily basis, right? Do self-awareness on a daily basis, care for ourselves on a daily basis, right? And I'm talking about the mindset part of this. And I'm a big believer in mindset and heart set. And heart set, I made that word up because it kind of goes with mindset. Because it kind of sounds cool. You can't say mindset and heart. So I say mindset and heart set. We need to work on both of those on a daily basis. And there's so many people that have misaligned hearts that it's hard to sell with the heart. And I'm just my eyes are going to the chat, and someone started talking about selling without the mask, right? Oh, my friend Alicia said selling without a mask, song and dance. You listen to the customer, what they really need. There's a lot of song and dance going on out there. I'll call it shuck and jive or bull crap, right? That's why I talk about empty suits in chapter 10 of Selling from the Heart. There's a ton of empty suits out there. And I'm not saying it in a mean way to disrespect the sales profession, whatever career you all are in. It's just a kind of a thing you conjure up in your head. Is I want us to think about this. Whatever career that you all are in right now, is I want us to think like a customer for a moment. So don't think like the position that you're in. And here's the other thing I'd ask you to think about. Don't hide behind your title. You're a lot more than the title. Because if I ask people all the time, and I coach high-performing sales reps, and one of the first questions I always ask them is, who are you, right? What do you do? And everybody tells me the same thing all the time. They give me their title of the job they're in. And a lot of people define themselves by their title. I'm going to ask you to just push the title aside for a second and really get some clarity on who you are and why you exist and what's your vision. And that's why, I'm going to go back to what Alicia said about selling without a mask, is there's a lot of people that wear masks. And it's so funny because now today they're wearing a mask over a mask, which is totally hilarious. But we have to be willing to rip the mask off and not be afraid. And that gets into the whole vulnerability part of this, is I lost that a long time ago. I threw that thing out the window a long time ago. To me, vulnerability is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. But if you really want to build deep, and this is my take on this, is if you really want to build deep, meaningful connections with people where you're tugging on someone's heartstrings, you're going to have to go first. You're going to have to go first. And yeah, that's going to hurt. It's probably going to hurt really bad. But I'm here to tell you this. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. It's all the stories in our head, right? It's all the mental gymnastics that we play that go, okay, well, gosh, if I say this, they're going to look at me differently. But I will share a secret with you right now. And this is why I can connect with people so well. And what I learned along the way is I have dad issues really bad. Massive, massive, massive dad issues. My dad's still alive, lives 8 miles from me, and I probably see him once a year, and that's because my wife twists my arm. And I bring this to the forefront because I came to grips with it a long time ago, and I'm slowly getting it out on podcasts. that the reason why relationships mean so much to me, and I would tell my customers I love them and how much they mean to me, is because I wanted that from my dad, and I never got it from my dad. But I got it from other people, and that's okay. I've come to grips with it. I wrote a best-selling book that's afforded me to travel all over the world. And I remember this as plain as day. My birthday is November 19th, November 20th last year. I'm sitting at a table, and it's a four table thing. I'm sitting across from my wife. My mom's here. My dad's here. I give my mom a signed copy of Selling from the Heart. It says to mom and dad, and it took everything to write something in it. And I gave it to my mom. My mom goes, son, I'm proud of you. I'll read it. My dad sat there and didn't say a word. Didn't say I'm proud. I can't remember the last time my dad said he's loved me. And I got in the car and I cried. And I said a few choice words, and I threw the middle finger up in the air. And I said, I'm done. It's never going to happen again. But I share this because that's what makes me me. And that's why I poured my heart into relationships. And I have no problem telling somebody I love them and I care for them and I respect them and I appreciate them, because it comes back, and that's all I was craving. It was to come back. And once I started to say that, something magical started to happen. People started to open up. And I'll share this with you. If you ever really want to get to the heart of what matters, open up, because I'm telling you this right now, it forever changes the course of relationships. But most relationships are on the surface level. And I'm not here to say that the relationships you all have are bad. It's not where I'm going with this. But most relationships are at surface level. If you really want to get to the, pardon the pun on the book, if you really want to get to the heart of what matters, you got to rip the freaking covers and you got to climb in and you got to dig in deep. That means that through good times and bad times, you're there. Because we know that in every relationship, there's going to be bad times. And those bad times make us better. But if you really want to know what's really going on with somebody, if you really want to understand what's going on in a business, you got to tug on the heartstrings. And I always say this is, it's what's uncomfortable will become comfortable. People won't tell you uncomfortable things unless they're comfortable with you. You smell what I'm cooking? That's kind of a Rock thing, right? He's one of my favorite actors. But I started to uncover that, and it started to work. And I always say I wasn't the smartest sales guy out there. And there was people that would outwit me and outsmart me and out-strategize me, but no one was going to outcare me. And I just knew the more that I showed I cared, the more people opened up. And as it relates to what's going on right now, the same can be said. And here's what's interesting. So since March, I pay attention to things probably way too much, and that's to my detriment. But I started to pay attention to the words that people were using on social. And I don't care whether this be in written format or video format, doesn't really matter. The 6 most common words, if y'all want to jot these down, are genuine, authentic, and real, compassionate, caring, and loving. Those are the 6 most common words I've heard and seen people use over the last 60 plus days. So here's what's interesting. So let's just peel back: genuine, authentic, and real. I'd urge you guys to think about what those 3 words mean and digest them and eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because I think if you ask, right? If you go ask your customers, if you go ask your friends, right? What do they really want in relationships? What do you expect? Hey, just be real, right? You've heard the expression, just give it to me real. Don't sugarcoat it, right? So let's think about what genuine, authentic, and real means. And then if you really want to connect with somebody, you got to show how much you care. You got to bring compassion to the table. And Brene Brown talks about it in The Gifts of Imperfection. She talks about those things in The Gifts of Imperfection. But here's what's interesting. It's never been as easy as it is right now. What's today, May 27? Is today the 27th?
28th.
28th?
Yes, sir.
So today's May 28th. It's never been as easy to connect with people as it is right now. You can connect with anyone basically virtually all over the world, but it's what do you do with the connection? And I think the hardest thing today is to truly connect with somebody. And now how do you connect with somebody in a virtual world? Think about that one for a second. You know, in the work from home environment, how do you really connect with somebody, tug on their heartstrings, and humanize what you do in a virtual world? It means we can't hide behind keyboards anymore, right? Technology is a great facilitator, but it also makes people lazy. If you really want to build a great human connection in a virtual world, I just say push yourself through a computer screen. And when I say push yourself through a computer screen, bring passion, bring conviction, bring clarity, bring tonality, bring voice inflection, right, to what you all do. Give somebody a reason why they should continue to have a conversation with you. And I promise you, if you do that, things become better. But here's what's interesting. So that there's three other things, and then I'll throw it up for some conversations. But I always say this, and regardless, I'm going to take sales out of this. So I'm going to stop picking on sales because I could pick on salespeople all day long. But I'll just say this, in society in general, this is going to apply. There's a lack of trust, and I think you'll all agree with me on this one. People just don't trust people, and that's sad, but that's just the world we live in. I think trust is so low, you can step over it. That's how low trust is. And I'm talking not even like a big, gigantic step. You could like a walking step. That's how low it is. There's that. And then I think people's BS meters are at an all-time high right now. And they're skeptical about everything that you have to say. So that being said, how do you guys on this call build trust, remove skepticism, and remove the BS meters with people? Give that one some thought. And I think if we can overcome those, conversations and connections become a whole lot easier to deal with. I could be wrong. And just so you know, I don't have a psychology degree or a doctorate like Brene Brown does. I have a PhD in getting the crap kicked out of me, selling copiers in downtown LA my whole life. But I'm just bringing real world stories through a practitioner's eyes to the sales world. And I don't hide from anything, and I don't sugarcoat anything. And I've been pretty tame on this call. But that being said, I'll open it up if anyone's got any questions or they want any ahas, something top of mind, go ahead and share. Or throw it in the chat, or just take yourself off of mute and fire away.
Yeah, if you press down on your space bars when you want to talk, that works. And then you can let go.
Do you have a question, Jim?
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for people to open up. Like they're, I don't know if you want to call them an introvert. So they, like someone who is in need of someone's approval, let's say. So they get into a conversation, they're looking for that approval from somebody else, more so than trying to be outgoing and trying to be concerned with them and help them. So that type of, let's say, personality trait, how would you deal with that? And
So when you're saying seeking approval, peel that one back just for a little bit more. When you say seeking approval, I just want to make sure I understand where you're going with this.
like when I approach a conversation, if I have created something and I want to share it with somebody, I'm more concerned. Let's say I'm more concerned about their approval for what I have than for me trying to fit them with it. It's easier for me to do that, let's say.
Well, then my biggest question would be, why do you think you need to seek approval?
It's part of my upbringing, I guess. I was always neglected, so that's something I deal with all the time, let's say. But I've been better at it, but I know there's people that are in worse condition than I was.
You know, so I mean, it's interesting because I used to always, for a long period of time, I would always be worried what someone's going to say, right?
What you doing, honey?
What's that?
Should.
Oh,
And it would screw with my head. Oh my gosh, right? I'm going to use Jim as an example, right? I'm having a conversation with Jim and I'd just be going, oh my God, how am I going to roll this out? How is he going to think? What's going to happen? Probably the stuff that you're going through sometimes, Jim. Until I said, well, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? What's the best thing that can happen? And then I just said, I'm just going to say what I say. And sometimes it bites me in the butt, especially with my wife. But it's not that I don't care, Jim, because I do. I care. I think that's why it still eats at me, because I care. But I just said, you know what? I'm just going to roll it out, and it is what it is. And I just don't give it a thought. It just comes out. Who else?
You know, there was a comment in there, and I don't know if you have a thought on this, Larry, but there was a question. Dawn had asked, are there any key phrases, questions to get to a customer's heart, or is it completely case by case? Do you have suggestions? Is that a...
I always say, if you remember what I said, is I go first. So if you want to get to somebody's heart, then kind of you go first. Now, you guys are all big believer. I'm sure you believe that stories sell.
Yes.
Right? Would you agree we all relate to stories?
Yes.
I think the best way to tug on someone's heart is to tell a story.
Yep. I agree.
Tell a story that they can align to, that they can relate to. And use phrases such as, hey, just imagine for a moment, right? I'm going to ask you to put your thinking cap on. Let's think back, years on this, right? I remember 5 years ago, and then you roll into your story. I mean, right away, you're not going to, in the first 5 minutes, going to rattle things out. I've been known to do it in the first couple minutes, but that's me. But I think that the fastest way to get to somebody's heart in a conversation is to share a story, and you go first. Share something impactful. Share an experience, right? I'm a big believer in this, and I don't know what you guys sell, but I'm a big believer that if you want to get to someone's heart, you create memories and experiences and you share those. And here's what I mean by memories and experiences. I want us to think, let's just think Disneyland for an example, right? So every year.
Larry, I think I muted you. I'm sorry, I muted you. I was trying to mute. Sorry about that. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Interfering.
So I want us to think about this just for a moment. Is Disneyland raises their prices every year and people still go, right?
Right.
Y'all are in Indianapolis, and vast majority of the Indianapolis Colts probably raise their price every year. and people still go. So this will kind of give you an idea where I'm going with this. So I'm in my Kiwanis Club in Thousand Oaks, California, where I live. And I become friends with a guy who's about 85 years old. And he runs 5 miles a day at 85 years old. He's been a season ticket holder at Dodger Stadium since like 1968, 69. He's been a season ticket holder there. He's got courtside season tickets to the Staples Center for the Los Angeles Clippers. So the guy's done very well for himself. But every year around January and February, we always have this same call as he bitches and complains that the Dodgers raised the ticket prices for season tickets and the parking pass. And so finally last year I said, his name's Rod. I said, Rod, then quit your complaining and quit your bitching and don't buy any more tickets and it'll solve the problem. And he says, Larry, I can't do that. And I said, why? And he goes, because I can't look my grandkids in the eyes and tell them that grandpa doesn't have Dodgers season tickets anymore because we take them to the game so they get bobbleheads. Okay? So imagine sharing a story like that to tug on somebody's heartstrings. That's why we just podcasted, Jennifer, this one will come out in 2 weeks. We just podcasted with the gal who was the publisher and helped edit Selling from the Heart. So we recorded the podcast 2 days ago. It'll come out next Saturday, the Saturday after that. And she encourages people to create story banks, to literally create virtual story banks. So think about every week, right? Let's just think for just a moment. Every single day you're in situations. Imagine capturing all those situations and creating story banks with them. And then just keep those, maybe journal the story banks or digitally record them and keep them in a story bank. Just throw a phone in front of your face and just record it. Mm-hmm. And now you have a bank of stories. And then when you're in certain conversations and you're in certain, situations, pull from one of those stories. Life's full of stories. Business is full of stories. Start uncovering how to capture memories and experiences. And I promise you this, that's the fastest way to tug on someone's heart. Share a relatable story that people can align to, that they feel comfortable with, and then get them to talk about it. Got it?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
What's a couple other things? What's one big aha somebody got? One big key takeaway that you all could take away from the last 45 minutes we spent that you can implement tomorrow to help you do something better? What would that be?
I don't care how many times I hear you talk, I always pick up new things. So it's like, oh my gosh, where do you start, really? I would say one of the things I would tell you, Larry, about this whole group is that most of them belong to our network. And one of the reasons I think our network works is because they are all trying to be exactly what you're saying. It's just getting down to the nitty gritty of what that means. And I think until they get your book or they get the reflection journal, I think it's hard to even know what does that mean to do the hard work.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave a challenge out to everyone. I'm going to follow up with Jennifer on this one.
Cool.
But the inner heart work is the hardest work.
Yeah.
If you want the outward work, right? If you want to do the outward work, you got to do the inner work. And Lord knows I've mind screwed the inner work to death. But that's the hardest thing to do, is to work on yourself. A buddy of mine in Seattle, Washington, that's a near and dear friend of mine, calls it the itty bitty shitty committee. And that's what gets him every single day. It's the mental, I call it mental gymnastics. He calls it that. So, but we laugh about it. That's the hardest work to do. So here's what I'd like for you guys to give some thought to, and then I'm going to throw a challenge down, and then we'll wrap it up. Is I'm going to urge you guys to capture the morning. Think about how you capture the morning every single day. Because if you fail to capture the morning, the day slips by. So I'll kind of give you my daily routine. Now, this is insane. Y'all are going to think it's insane. I wake up 7 days a week at 3 o'clock in the morning, West Coast time. Even if I've decided to tip one over on the night before, I still get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I spend the first 45 minutes working on me. Literally, my feet hit the ground and I walk into this office, the lights are off. I sit in that chair right behind me and I just sit in darkness for 45 minutes and I just think and I meditate. And I just start thinking about, what did I do yesterday? What can I do today? Who can I help? Who can I serve? What can I do? And I work on me for 45 minutes. And I kind of get the brain moving a little bit. And then I go out for a 3.5 mile walk in complete darkness with a hoodie on. Like a complete idiot in Los Angeles, but nevertheless.
Yeah.
But it works for me. I capture the morning really well and the day just kind of flows. So what I'd like for us to think about is capture the morning. Try to see what you can do to capture the morning, whatever that time is. Capture it. Spend the first hour and try to capture it the best you can and work on yourself. And then, since this seems like it's a tight-knit group, what I would urge you guys to think about, and you guys can do this as a team, is we started talking about heart and selling from the heart and serving from the heart and leading from the heart. And I'll leave you with this, is I want us to think about 3 ways that you guys can connect better with more meaning to your hearts.
Okay.
And why am I saying this? Because we start talking about connection and how hard it is to connect with people. Well, if you can't connect at your heart level, what makes you think that you can go out and connect to somebody else's heart? Think about that one for a second. That becomes really difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why I say we fail to work on ourselves. And if we don't have a healthy mind and a healthy heart, it's hard to go out and do anything in life with any degree of consistency and be successful at it. So what I'd like for us to think about is, what's 3 ways that you guys can connect to your heart? And then I'm going to flip it around. And then I want you to think about 3 ways that you can connect with more meaning to your customers. And I want you to think about this, and you got to take it outside the normal, right? And really stretch your mind on this one. What are 3 ways that you can connect to somebody right now with more meaning than you are right now? Throw your customers in there, right? What are 3 ways that you can connect with more meaning with your customers?
Okay.
And then once you do, I want us to think about this. I'm a big believer in this, that you're building relational bridges. And those relational bridges are based on, right, building a sense of community, and you're connecting people. And I want you to think about relational bridge building and just being a connector and building communities. So that being said, what are 3 ways that you guys can connect with your heart? And then what are 3 ways that you can connect with your customers' hearts? Different than what you're doing right now. Because if there's anything that I know that's happened over the last 60 to 80 days, is we got to be different. And we can't use the most I think the biggest overused word in this whole time has been pivot. I think that's going to be the word for 2020. Pivot or normal, right? I'm
Right.
so sick and tired of people saying pivot and new normal and normal, because what's normal to me is not normal to Jennifer, and it's not normal to Susan or Polly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys want to reach out to me, feel free. Jennifer has all my contact information. If there's something that you all wanted to say, something weighing on your heart or something like that that you want to get off, just let me know. I love having conversations like this. Jennifer has all my contact information. You guys can reach out to me. When and if you guys do get the book, I think, Jennifer, you have the self-reflection journal.
I do, right in my hands. I was actually, yeah, I would just say that's probably one of the best things I've ever, I don't know how to explain it. Going through this and I listened on my, on Audible, I think, or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is getting down to the nitty gritty. So if you really want to dig in, this is what, and that comes with the book, right? Or
Yeah.
is it a lead into the book? I don't know. I got it.
No. Hey, so Jim, I'm going to tell you a secret right now, dude. So here's one of the reasons why it took me forever and a day to do the audio. I was too worried about what people were going to think when they listened to my voice on the audio. And I podcast it every week. Think about that one. Then finally I just dove in and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The sellingfromtheheart.net is where everything they would find out about all your stuff, though.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You did have one question about, can you provide a mailing address for us? I think some people want to reach out to you. You never know what you're going to get, but these are great.
I'm sure. Hey, you know what? Ever since I got involved with Send Out Cards, I sure love going to my mailbox more now than ever before.
Okay, good. So what's your address?
Here, I'm going to put it in the chat real quick.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because I was going to ask that anyway. So, and I'm saving the chat, everybody. So my goal would be to send this out to everybody. I've been doing that a lot lately with our Zoom calls. So, you know, if you don't get it, although I should be able to know who's all on here, but.
And then I'm going to put my email address down there if anyone wants to shoot me an email.
But thank you so much. We appreciate it's wonderful. I didn't know we'd get all this time with you. So thank you very much.
Either did I until this morning when I saw my 1:30 call pushed.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alicia.
There you go.
Thank you.
I just heard in the chat.
All right. Thank you so much. In sellingfromtheheart.net, I'm looking at the chat. Make sure I'm not telling anybody anything wrong. Okay.
No, it's okay.
Thank you so much, everybody.
You're welcome. I enjoyed this. And like I said, if any of you guys want to reach out to me, now there's my email address. Or if you want my cell phone number, you can get it from Jennifer.
I do have it. That's kind of creepy. But thank you.
Cool.
So
You're very welcome. I enjoyed. You guys have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Bye.
You so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. I appreciate it very much. And I don't know, just go out to sellingfromtheheart.net